I think the chickens are fed, the kids are off to school, and Tom Shattuck is settling in here. And I got a question for you. I know you had a lot of chores to do, like all you farmers, all you country folk, before the sun comes up. Did you run your BLM flag up the pole this morning? Because that's important. We're all in this together. If there's anything that can unite the country, it's Black Lives Matter, the organization. Capital B, capital L, capital M, the organization. Tony Blinken and I believe Joe Biden has already made it clear they want all the embassies, which is like 1 million embassies, to fly the Black Lives Matter flag outside the embassies in honor of the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death. And I guess we'll find, the media will dance around it. None of the networks or local stations will even have a critical word. It's like flying the, Wounded Warrior flag, or flying the, the Girl Scouts of America flag. It's like nothing controversial here. Just a outwardly Marxist, socialist organization that has promoted violent riots, protests for a year. That group is going to be honored today by this country around the world.
Well, not only that, Gerry, but it's not just a socialist, anti-nuclear family symbol, but it's this admission by the administration that we are a racist country that hunts down minorities. So we go after Iran over human rights issues. All they have to do is point up at the flag and say, hey, you guys are wearing this on your sleeve. Don't go after us for human rights issues. You guys are killing black people in the streets. So
we got lectured when they had that summit with Blinken and the lady with purple hair up in Alaska. We got lectured by the Chinese Communist Party, literally face to face in this table up in Alaska. She started talking about abuses, human rights abuses in this country, and referenced Black Lives Matter. So this propaganda is working. I mean, they're getting people around the country to hate America just like they do. To think of it as a backwards racist place where Black lives don't matter. When in fact, it's not that complicated. This isn't even debatable. The people who founded Black Lives Matter call themselves Marxist. They wanted to disrupt the nuclear family. They want to defund the police. We are honoring a group that wants to get rid of cops and prisons and around the world today in our hundreds of embassies. It's so bizarre. Even if you're a fan of Black Lives Matter, you have to admit it's a political organization. It's highly political. They take a stand, a very, very radical stand, and they take to the streets and they shout about it and try to advance an agenda that's extremely radical. Even if you just say, yeah, but that's, I believe in what they do, and you hang their banner or fly their flag, and it's not just, protection. When a business puts a Black Lives Matter banner in the window, it's protection. They don't want that window broken. I understand that. But when a person does it, and you see it all the time. I tweeted last year, I was walking the beach up in Maine, this house, massive house, I don't know, probably a $3 million house, and they got 2 flags flying, American flag and Black Lives Matter flag. So this person living, their second home is $3 million. I assume they've taken advantage of the capital system, which BLM is against. They're against capitalism, even on their most tepid, demonstrations. They will tell you that. It's not, they don't hide it. They took some of it off the website, but they don't hide it. Did you see the woman, the BLM leader who got shot in London?
Yes.
Shot in the head in this attack in London. I mean, you read about her. She wants to, she's not dead. She's alive. She says this at rallies. She wants to enslave white people.
Yes.
Because that's the only way to even the score after years of black people being enslaved. She wants to, and it's the usual list: defund the police, disrupt the family, end capitalism, and enslave all white people. So It really does.
We've
It
talked for
really,
a year about how it's just the best marketing plan. There's no way the person with the $3 million home has read the Black Lives Matter agenda on their website. It's just a
well, I think
symbol.
they've lost a little bit of support because people have woken up. At first, it was just a slogan, and that's all. Do you favor Black Lives Matter? Of course. But I think over a year now of violent, demonstrations, protests, riots, where they've caused billions of dollars in damage, people have died, and it forced some people to read up. And when they read up, they said, "Holy crap! These people want to end capitalism." That's kind of a big deal in this country. And it's one thing for these woke idiot celebrities like The Rock to give them money, and Ben Stiller and Steve Carell to give them money, which is kind of pathetic. Can you think of other, radical political organizations who are out literally throwing rocks through windows, and they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars because corporations and celebrities give them money. It's bizarre. That's one thing. If you're an idiot and you're a pander and puke, like, again, these celebrities or these corporations, that all the woke corporations like Coke and Apple have given money to Black Lives Matter to help, in some cases bail them out after they attack cops or destroy businesses. That's one thing. But we're talking about the government, and we're talking about governments around the world, our government and their embassies around the world, and they're ordered to fly Black Lives Matter. Again, if you just think it's a political organization, what other political organization would you support in the flag? As somebody mentioned this, they were talking about it, I forget where, and they said, just say it's a Republican administration, it's Trump, and he orders all the embassies to fly the NRA flag or to fly the, whatever, the National Right to Life flag. There would be outrage, and those organizations don't want to end capitalism. They don't want to get rid of the cops. You could disagree with NRA and whatever right to life organizations, but you can't say that their agenda involves destroying businesses and ending capitalism. That group, the one that believes in that, is being honored, essentially, advanced, promoted around the world. And can you check this? Is it one day? I think it's more than one day, right? Where we're going to fly this flag. By the way, where do they get that? They have to send like hundreds of flags to all the embassies and make sure they run it up and take pictures. And the whole world's going to say, wow, things have really changed in the United States. They are promoting a Marxist organization for all the world to see. It's so bizarre.
Right. Yeah. We're celebrating taking police protection away from Black people as if it's a good thing. So when they say Black Lives Matter, so what they really mean is 30 unarmed Black men killed by cops every year. Those are the only ones that matter.
Right.
None of the other Black people shot, certainly in Chicago, when you can easily lose 50 on a weekend. None of those matter whatsoever. And also, like, these same people, that house in Maine, the beautiful house on the beach in Maine, that they're going to have solar panels very soon as part of the Green New Deal made by slaves. Happily. Admittedly, John Kerry went to Congress and said, yes, as a matter of fact, they will be made by slaves. And some of the wind turbines made by slaves, some of the parts in both of those things made from rare earth minerals mined by slaves. And we know it, but we're proud of it. Because
because
climate justice, Gerry.
Climate justice is more important than human rights. It is amazing when John Kerry admitted that, and this is unusual. I thought he would just lie about it like he usually does, and he told the truth. He said, "Yeah, it's a problem." And then Joe Biden said they have different norms. They have different norms. Yeah, in Mississippi in 1840, they just had different norms. They enslaved human beings, beat them, used them like traded them like cattle. Those were different norms. That's the explanation from our doddering commander-in-chief. But I'm just looked this up. We got 163 embassies and 93 consulates around the world. I assume those would be included. So you're talking 250 representatives of the United States government flying a flag for an organization devoted to ending capitalism.
Yeah, well, and
here's
real
the
estate
amazing thing,
and
Shannon.
real estate acquisition, Jerry.
It is just for one day,
One day.
until the images of taking it down come out, and then you got to keep it
That's
up. For
true.
yeah, the backlash from that.
Well, they got they had to buy 250 flags. They're gonna have to use them. You don't just use them once, but but there will be very little pushback or criticism, because the one thing, messaging obviously from BLM has been brilliant. Whoever did it, I don't know if it was that crazy Marxist lady who's bought like 10 houses in the last couple of months, including, she's out looking at real estate in the Bahamas and in the finest neighborhoods in Southern California. That's where your money's going, Rock. That's where your money's going, Apple and Amazon, buying houses for the Marxist women who found the organization. But I can't imagine it'll be just one day. That wouldn't be, let's be honest. It's a cause we can all get behind, right? We all want to
remember, there used to be a Gay Pride Day, then a Gay Pride week. Now it's all month.
Right,
so
that's true. And it's a long month. It's not February. I think it's June.
It's a good month.
But it is. And the incredible thing they've done, and Callahan mentioned the messaging again, brilliant. But I don't think anyone has ever pulled this off, where you feel they've made it not impossible, but difficult to question them or criticize them at any level. So if you see a demonstration where they're literally chanting, "What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now." Mm-hmm. That was in New York City. That was on video. You can find it. It's
not just in New York City. It's all over the place.
And they chant, "Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon." And they literally have a banner that says Black Lives Matter, and they have, posters, Black Lives Matter, and they chanting about dead cops. That group somehow has garnered this support across the board, in this country. And if you criticize them, you are walking, you are heading into dangerous territory. We all know that. I mean, you can't criticize a group that wants to end capitalism. It's an incredible trick. And schools, I mean, when they're not studying, when kids aren't learning about how awful this country is and racist they are, they should learn one thing above all others about BLM is the brilliant marketing that they've done, messaging and marketing, where they can say the most radical things, support the most radical agenda, and you can't call them out on it. I mean, it's a political organization that if you criticize them, everyone kind of holds their breath and says, "Oh, I hope he doesn't, go there." But this thing about the family and the cops, that's on record. I mean, we're not making that up.
Yeah, but they're not seeing it. They're not. I mean, I don't think they played those videos on the nightly news. I don't think the person in my neighborhood who has a Black Lives Matter sign sees this shit from Twitter. They just see, they just see.
Which is amazing. They've intimidated the mainstream media to either support them or ignore them. Not do any investigation at all. It's
I think
incredible. And how about this? While we're on it. Today, I believe, is the day that George Floyd's family visits the White House. Now, tell me this. Do you think Joe Biden even knows who David Dorn is? If you asked him the name, David Dorn or Patrick Underwood, just two innocent victims, law enforcement. Dorn was retired. Patrick Underwood was a law enforcement official in California, murdered by BLM activists, or not activists, violent actors. Does Biden even, I mean, people are asking, why wouldn't you invite David Dorn's family to the White House? Do you think he even knows who he is? Most people don't, right?
Yeah, no. That's that the way he died. First of all, he was also killed by a black person. So that offsets it. No, absolutely not. And this couldn't have happened. First of all, obviously we're dumber than ever in the country. Nobody knows anything about history anymore. The younger generations are total wusses. Obviously, you can't get punched in a schoolyard fight without spreading the message on, Instagram and everything else. But also the Trump thing, people who are intellectually lazy just believed the easy, opiate of Trump being a Nazi. So the BLM thing was to show I'm all in against all the Nazis and slavery against this guy here. But it's crazy. What pisses me off mostly is people act like the great reconciliation we're having last year. We're finally having these conversations. That's bullshit. Man, people in the 1600s were having these conversations. At the Constitutional Convention, in Philadelphia, we were having these conversations about slavery. There was great debate on adding the words in the Constitution, adding the words, all men are created equal. That was put in there for a reason. We've had abolitionists forever, and we had every states' rights argument in issue was really a slavery issue. When we created new states, those were all slavery issues. When everything went to hell and it couldn't contain itself anymore, and we elected an seemingly abolitionist president, we had a freaking civil war. We had 400,000 soldiers dead, something like 700,000 altogether dead.
618,000 dead. And then, they talk about original sin. I would say that's a pretty solid penance when you give up like virtually a young man in every household, a son in every household essentially gave his life to end it. You can't find another country that paid a price like that to free a people. They did it in this country, and somehow that's not enough. We still have to talk about the original sin, which happened.
But we've never not talked about it, Gerry. We've never not talked about it.
All
through Jim Crow.
Right.
People act like it's something new last year. Finally, we're noticing that we have a history of slavery. That's bullshit. I mean, we have been talking about this and dealing with this and reckoning with this for hundreds of years.
Right. Anybody who says we need to have a conversation, just end it right there with that person, because
it sounds to me like you haven't put the work in.
The conversation never ends. You're right. I mean, except if you want to criticize BLM or criticize the White House for hosting George Floyd's family. See how George Floyd's family got 27 million? Shouldn't they host the party? But why wouldn't you reach out to David Dorn's family? If you really want to unify, if you really want to reach out and bring everyone together, you don't honor the family of George Floyd without mentioning the fact that lots of other innocent people died in this summer of love. And again, there's lots of victims of crime. As you point out, there's a couple of dozen in Chicago every weekend. Last weekend, 9 days ago, I think there was 46 people shot in Chicago. Yes, because it was the weekend that Lori Lightfoot set her priorities and said she's going to hold one-on-one interviews, but only with black or brown reporters. So you have a blatantly racist mayor saying excluding one race, one group of reporters based on their race. And this was just around the same time that a couple of children and 45 other people were shot in Chicago, and no mention of it from LeBron James, no mention of it from Ben Crump, who I believe is going with, if I have this correct, Ben Crump is going with George Floyd's family to the White House. Nobody's chronicled this better than Turtle Boy. Ben Crump is a serial liar. He lies about every case in hopes of creating civil unrest. He wants rioting, and he'll lie about a case like he said, Ma'Khia Bryant was unarmed, and shot by the cop, Nicholas Reardon in Columbus. Just a flat out lie. He said Jacob Blake was unarmed, shot in the back by cops, unarmed man. And these lies are designed to, infuriate the masses and create. So this man is not a respected, lawyer. He is the ultimate race hustler whose whole livelihood depends on inflaming tensions. You're going to have him at the White House now. I'm not positive. It's just he's talking for the family about the arrangement of meeting with Biden and others and a bunch of congressional leaders in D.C.
Of course,
I think he is. I think.
Why wouldn't he be there? Of course, he's probably the liaison to the White House. Seriously, no. In this case,
Al Sharpton went to the White House like 200 times during the Obama administration. But this will drive me nuts. Not because they're doing it. I know this is what Joe Biden does. This is why he talked about Georgia's voting laws. He wants to divide everyone. He wants to to continue to promote the myth that this is a hopelessly racist country and worse than ever and worse than Jim Crow and all that. It's all a lie, but it's a strategic lie. So I shouldn't be surprised that Ben Crump is at the White House today. But can't somebody call him out besides freaking Turtle Boy? The Weird Worcester blogger is doing the job of the entire mainstream media, the national media, pointing out that this is not a man to be respected. This is not the man to be honored with a visit into the freaking Oval Office. It's just incredible.
Plus, since we've also had a bigger racist race crime since then, Jerry, your favorite author, Nicole Hannah-Jones, didn't get tenure.
Oh, I know. Didn't get tenure. She's got no experience. I always thought tenure came with experience, but what do I know? And those poor kids at UNC, University of North Carolina, they won't get to learn from the woman herself.
Well, they still get to learn. She just doesn't have tenure, Jerry. She's got a 5-year gig still.
Oh, so she's still doing it?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
thought they insulted her to the point where she said, "Go screw. I don't need you." She's the biggest, con artist in the country. She can get, well, besides Ibrahim Kendi, who I was going through the checkout line at the grocery store. Boston Magazine has Ibrahim Kendi on the cover, honoring, one of the great leaders in Boston. It's incredible. This grifter, this liar who talks about this awful country and critical race theory and how all white people are racist and all black people are victims. Just the most poisonous rhetoric is honored as one of the great leaders. Leaders of what? Leaders of the revolution? I mean, it's unbelievable. But today, big day. We'll hear more about how awful this country is and how awful the police are, and talking about, reforming the police and, once get rid of qualified immunity and all those awful chokeholds and everything will be better, right? In this country. I mean, crime will go down once you get rid of the cops, I think, right? Won't that?
It actually just hit me as you were talking about the flag, and I looked it up on my buddy's Instagram. It is going to be the 1-year anniversary of Blackout Tuesday next week. Remember when they were posting just put black on all their posts?
Of course, I did that.
Twitter.
I mean, I'm woke because I did that. That's 1 year. I mean,
I did the fist in the air to show.
I haven't seen anybody plugging that. Maybe they're giving the flag its due, but
we got a lot of anniversaries coming up. We got 1 year since they burned the police station to the ground, and 1 year since they killed David Dorn, a 77-year-old retired cop protecting his friend's pawn shop, shot to death by BLM supporters for no reason. I mean, not that he doesn't matter. I mean, he doesn't matter. It's not like he was killed by a white cop. Unfortunately, I mean, when you were, like David Dorn's widow, I mean, tough break, 2 tough breaks. You lose your husband, and he doesn't matter because he was killed by some black guy breaking in. It wasn't a white cop. If it were a white cop, Mrs. Dorn, you'd be famous. You'd be famous.
That was just a young man collecting on his rightful reparations, Jerry, and the business had insurance. So in a sense, it was suicide by Dorn.
That's true. Insurance pays it. What's the big deal? We have a attorney general in Massachusetts who, when asked about the fires that the looters were setting, she said, "That's how forests grow." An attorney general who supported people burning small businesses to the ground. If you need any more evidence that this is one screwed up country right now, this is a elected official. And by the way, the person who will be prosecuting Kim Potter, the cop who accidentally shot a black suspect who was resisting, thought it was her taser, clearly just, big mistake. But he's going to be prosecuting her. Keith Ellison, a supporter of Louis Farrakhan, a complete radical who hates America. He's going to be leading the prosecution of this woman who's already been, booted off the police force. My prediction, you want my prediction for the Kim Potter case? She's going to be acquitted and then immediately arrested by the Biden Justice Department, charged with hate crimes and convicted of that. So she'll go to prison and everyone will be happy.
You think she'll be acquitted?
Yeah, well, I heard Dershowitz analyzing this, and he said you can make a mistake. I mean, she'll be overcharged, right, by Ellison. That's what he does. And if you can prove she made a mistake, it's like a surgeon making a mistake in surgery. You can't convict him if he just made an honest mistake. And I heard Dershowitz say they could make that case. I mean, they might convict her of some lesser charge, but it won't be enough. Say they convict her of some lesser charge, and Keith Ellison's not happy, and obviously Biden, before she leaves, before they take her away, they'll charge her with whatever hate crimes. That's what they were going to do to Chauvin.
Chauvin. Yeah, but Gerry, do you think that this jury is going to see Molotov cocktails in their neighborhoods and pigs'
That's a
heads
good point.
and
Right.
blood-smeared houses? I think the jury is going to get the point that this is not a choice.
Yeah, you're probably right. It just, I mean, if I'm exaggerating, they will convict. Here's my point: they will convict her of something, no matter what, no matter the evidence. That's Keith Ellison's not looking for blind justice. Keith Ellison's looking for blood. He wants her ass, and he's going to get it, even though we all know what happened. We heard it. We saw it. I mean, it's all on video. She made a fatal mistake. She thought it was her taser. It's a stupid mistake, and she deserves to be fired, and she deserves to be convicted of whatever the crime is, whatever it is by law.
Of course.
And he'll want to charge her, with everything he can come up with, including hate crimes.
Yeah.
And it won't matter that he was resisting and all that, and violent felon. That won't matter. Of course, it'll just be her being a racist cop, Kim Potter being a racist cop, and maybe we'll learn more about her. Maybe she is racist, but I'm going to guess that even a jury in Minneapolis that's intimidated or is going to be thinking that's clear. She thought it was her taser. She thought it was a taser. She used
said, "Oh shit!" after she did. She shot him.
I mean, she yelled taser. Yeah. I don't know how you refute that in court. Are you going to just say, no, she only did it because he's black, or you did it because she's racist? I mean, what are you going to say beyond she made a mistake? I don't know. But
speaking of 1 year anniversaries, Gerry, can the Boston police take the MBTA yet?
That's a good question. Can they go to the bathroom at Berkeley School? Right. A lot of cop hating went on last year at this time. Oh, last year. Post Memorial Day, a lot of cop hating, and they still say it matter-of-factly that cops are the problem. And I'm just reading about the George Floyd family coming to the White House, and it's going to be about the George Floyd Reform in Policing Act, whatever that's what this day is going to be about. George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which is obviously a way to hamstring the cops and make their life more difficult, as if it's not difficult enough. And by the way, get lots of them to retire, and go away. It's not good for the country, not good, as you point out, for people in minority neighborhoods. They're going to have fewer cops, and the cops who are there are going to be a lot more reluctant to do their jobs. They're going to, they're going to sit in the cruiser and say, gee, that guy looks awfully fast. I don't think I'm going to chase him today.
You're right. And among other things happening, there was one report in Connecticut, and this is happening through the country, is that cops now, about like almost a third of the time now, when they're pulling people over, the person in the car just keeps on going and has no regard. Maybe it's a fourth, but it's a huge number now. People are not afraid, have no respect for the cops in communities, because they know the cops aren't going to pursue them. And if they are, they're not going to drag them out of a car. There's a lot of radical DAs in, we often hear about Philadelphia or LA, that Gascon, and these guys dropping charges, lessening the charges, letting people go. It's out of control in these cities. And one of the things that they're decriminalizing in some of these cities is, including Boston. I talked to a cop about this. We have a radical DA, Rachel Rollins, just like they do in Philly and LA and so many other cities, is resisting arrest. So there's no price to be paid for running. There's no price to be paid for just saying, screw this and taking off. Except maybe the cop will grab his gun instead of his taser and you'll end up dead, but you're not going to be charged with anything if they don't shoot you. If you just run, either two things happen: either you get away or they catch you, and they can't add the charge of resisting. Think of how insane that is. I mean, it's crazy. They're decriminalizing a lot of things, including shoplifting, and we've seen the stats in places like San Francisco and Boston, LA, where there's a spike in shoplifting because there's no downside, there's no risk. You get caught, they let you go. But if you get caught and have some a warrant or something, you might as well run. Why not? Yeah,
just run for it. But anyway, big day. Everyone's going to be thinking back on that wonderful summer of love last year. Wasn't it great? I mean, watching the city burn and watching all these small businesses get destroyed by this group, this organization, which is being honored today.
Right, which got a hall pass from the coronavirus, remember?
Well, that's a good point.
Right. And your favorite love interest, Lori Lightfoot, remember, she also gave herself a hall pass to get a haircut.
It didn't work, but yes.
We might have been the only people on the internet who were doing a live watch along, like how everybody does it for the sporting events. We were doing a live watch along for the BLM protest in Boston. Remember that? Mm-hmm. I believe, right? Turtle Boy. True.
They burned one police car. That was it. We got off really.
We thought it was going to get bad. There were moments that we thought it was going to get real.
And I went around the city up in Newbury Street after that, and there were broken windows, and there were a lot of boarded up businesses, but it wasn't. We didn't. Join the club of Minneapolis and Seattle and Kenosha and all these other places where they destroyed blocks of small businesses and homes of minority-owned businesses. And for that, they're being rewarded today. They're being honored around the world by the Biden administration. If you thought the world was upside down and making no sense.
And it's interesting, Gerry, because Black Lives Matter they are proactively pushing for Jim Crow laws. They want segregation. They want discrimination, just like Lori Lightfoot with her only black, reporters can come in here. They are absolutely for segregation and discrimination. Literally, they want it everywhere. They push for it in colleges. They want black-only houses. There's no end. This Lori Lightfoot thing, what she did, I think that's just one of many. How can you not be Amherst College and look at that and say, wait, why aren't we doing something like this? Making a bold statement right here to fix the past, to reconcile with the past. Let's absolutely do it. And, and it's actually happening. You look at schools, all of the really great schools in New York City, all the entrance exams are going right out the window. You're just destroying these institutions in the name of, equitable outcomes. And we're applauding ourselves for doing it, for just destroying everything. Yay. Great.
All right. There's a couple of, I don't even want to spend that much time on that, but it is today. It is a big day around the world. There's a few other things I want to get to with you, Shattuck. I heard about Rick Santorum getting fired by CNN, and then I heard, he said something over the top, and I thought maybe it was, criticizing BLM, or maybe criticizing Andrew Cuomo. That's not allowed at CNN, or maybe it's, I don't know, doing something like saying you love your country. They don't allow that at CNN. But it's even more absurd. I mean, literally, Rick Santorum said nothing offensive, over the top. You can't even twist it, bend it, mutilate it, make it seem like he said anything offensive. He was talking about history of the country. And he talked about the settlers coming from Europe, escaping religious persecution, and he said the establishment of America, of this country, had nothing to do with Native Americans. You can say that's awful, that's terrible, but you can't say he was lying or exaggerating or making something up, can you? I mean, we can play what Santorum said to get fired. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to me where he crossed the line?
If you think about this country, I don't know of any other country in the world that was settled predominantly by people who were coming to practice their faith. They came here because they were not allowed to practice their particular faith in their own country. And so they came here mostly from Europe, and they set up a country that was based on Judeo-Christian principles. I say Judeo-Christian, the Mosaic Laws, 10 Commandments, and the teachings of Jesus Christ, the morals and teachings of Jesus Christ. That's what our founding documents are based upon. It's in our DNA. If you think of other countries like Italy and Greece and China and Turkey and places like that, they've all sort of changed over time. I mean, they've been there for millennia in many cases. And their culture has sort of evolved over time. But not us. We came here and created a blank slate. We birthed a nation from nothing. I mean, there was nothing here. I mean, yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, that There isn't much Native American culture in American culture. It was born of the people who came here pursuing religious liberty to practice their faith, to live as they ought to live, and have the freedom to do so. Religious liberty.
That got Rick Santorum, a contributor to CNN for, I believe, 4.5 years, token conservative, kind of a milquetoast guy, not a real bomb tosser. That got him fired. Now, I know what the objectionable part was, but I'm sorry to, nitpick, but it's true. I mean, what he said is true. When he said candidly, the Native American culture didn't have a lot to do with the American culture and the establishment of this new world, this new country. That got him fired.
Right. And it's absolutely, obviously he's right. I mean, to borrow a term from this administration, Gerry, the country's North Star was the Enlightenment principles, was European Enlightenment. It was, science and reason. And these are things that they brought over from Europe. These are not things that were here previously. That's crazy to think that.
Right. I mean,
you can
think about it, Tom. They're acting like the founding fathers, like included, Native Americans. They were sitting at the table when they, drew up the Bill of Rights, and he's pointing out that that's not how it works. And it's scary when people get fired for expressing their opinion that might be a little, offensive to somebody out there that they might feel like, an opinion, hurt their feelings, and someone gets fired. Like, we've gone through this, from whatever for the last year, this incredible force of cancel culture. But what he just said sounded like a history teacher, right? I mean, he just could have been reading from a history book.
Right.
There's no opinion there at all. Was there? Did I miss it?
No, and I mean, you could say that certainly having partnerships and allied with Native Americans, sustained early colonists and settlers in certain areas, and that's true. We also were at war with them. They were at war with each other. But they did not have, there were no Enlightenment principles here with Native Americans. There are some tribes that had something that resembled democracies. But no, I'm sorry. It's just dumb to say. It's like,
you could say that's too bad. That's awful the way we treated them. We should have brought them in and assimilated, have them assimilate with us. And
many did.
I mean, you could say that if you want, but you can't say stating, truth, fundamental truth and facts about that era is offensive. It's just bizarre that that's the point we've reached. And by the way, ironic, I guess, or notable that at the same time that Rick Santorum was being fired from CNN for telling the truth, and he went on Hannity. I don't know if you saw it last night. Said, "I have no hard feelings. He's such a lightweight when it comes to this. I wanted him to, go all Matt Gaetz and just fire back. Instead, he says, it's their right to fire me. They could do that if they'd like. They just fired you for nothing. You're going to sit there and take it? That's not how it works. You could say everyone knows they have a right to do it. Nobody's saying they did anything illegal, but you could fight back. You could punch back and say, they fired me for stating historical facts. And you could at least make them the bad guy, but he won't do it. And Hannity's like telling, you're a free agent or something. I'm like, you really want to hire that guy? He's such he's not a fighter in this day and age. Cable news, you need a fighter, and he ain't one.
I like Santorum just fine, but tells you all you need to know about CNN. I mean, the one Republican is now out. The Republican before that, Jeffrey Lord, mockingly did the Heil Hitler thing, talking about other people acting like fascists. On CNN, you're allowed to throw out Nazi references left and right, as long as the target is Republicans or Donald Trump.
Right.
But no, there's any infraction at all, and the emails start coming, and the CNN management gets mentioned in tweets, and they panic, and they just call everybody. I don't even know, where is the conservative on CNN? Is there one anywhere?
What is Jennifer Rubin on there? Where's she?
Anna, what's her name? And
David Frum, Anna Cabrera. There is none. And
that's Rick
you know
Wilson,
what?
baby, Jerry.
That's the way it should be. They put a conservative. It's not a real conservative. They're not going to have a real fighter on there. They're not going to have whatever Dan Bongino show up and put them all just beat them all about the head and
back
face.
when it was a real network, I mean, you had Pat Buchanan on CNN.
You had Tucker Carlson on CNN
Yes.
with his bow tie. But now it's just they're preaching to the choir. It's just noise for their own people. They're not reaching out. They don't want to expand their audience. They want to talk to the cult and continue to indoctrinate and brainwash. And truth be damned, here's how you know it's not journalism. It's not a real news network. Is Chris Cuomo? We found out, and I know Chris Cuomo is important to CNN. He's on every night, and he's against Hannity. Correct? He's on at 9 or 8. I can never remember.
I think 9. Maddow's no, she's MSNBC. I think 9. I'm not sure though.
I see clips of him. I don't watch the show. Yeah, because he hands off
9
to
p.m. He's at 9. Yep,
9, and Don Lemon's 10. But Don Lemon, we got to admit, whole new deal with Don Lemon. I mean, they just completely redid the show. It used to be late. It used to be Tonight with John Lemon, and now it's Don Lemon Tonight. They revamped everything. It's so fresh and different. I'm watching it now that it's Don Lemon Tonight.
Those are good consultant ideas right there. It's come from soft launches. Soft launches work. These are guys that pay dividends in the end.
Yeah, I don't know. Is he dressing differently or anything? They different, logos or whatever. But but Chris Cuomo, but if it were a news network, even if it were a liberal news network and it had some kind of credibility, Cuomo would have been out on his ass a long time ago. We know the governor of New York took part or led a cover-up. We know it. He covered up the numbers in New York on the COVID deaths and nursing homes. We know that. Obviously, the cover-up's terrible. The crime was worse. He put COVID patients in the nursing homes and killed off at least 15,000 senior citizens. You don't get bigger scandals than that. I've said it all along. The biggest political scandal in American history. Literally killing a bunch of innocent, helpless senior citizens. Anyway, and he covered it up. And then we found out he's an absolute pig and a predator, grabbing everything in any female under 30 in his office. He was making the moves on. He's been credibly accused by 10, 12 women at this point. Who knows? Even Democrats have said he's got to go. Just a disgrace, absolute disgrace, a liar, a bully, an awful, awful elected official. He was meeting with his brother, who's a national cable news host, on strategy to help him through the scandal. Now, clearly, he's got handlers and he's got staff who did that. They included an anchor on CNN who covers politics. Biggest scandal, in my opinion, in political history, U.S. political history. And there's tens of thousands of survivors of grieving widows, children who can attest to that. And the guy helping him through it, shepherding him through the scandal, was an anchor on a cable news channel at 9 o'clock who refused to talk about the story. Now, Shattuck, you've been around a little bit. I've been around a little bit. I can't imagine how that is not a fireable offense. How is it not breaking the cardinal rule how is it not literally participating in a cover-up designed to keep this off the news, out of the newspapers, off cable news? That's what it's for. And a guy who's a host on a cable news channel is participating in the meetings, clandestine meetings, to make sure that the media didn't grab this and run with it. It's incredible that Chris Cuomo did this, and he rationalizes everything by saying, "I love my brother," blah blah blah. But he did this, and he survived. And the only punishment was here's the punishment, as far as I could tell from CNN: you're not allowed to cover your brother anymore. Well, his whole point of meeting with his brother and strategizing was to get people to not cover Andrew Cuomo. The punishment for Chris Cuomo is And he covered him every day when he was the love gov, and single and ready to mingle and all that.
I like the big Q-tip, Jerry.
Q-tip,
that was
he was there covering it every day. But then when his brother got in trouble, they said, no, you can't cover your brother. And he was like, fine. Then now I don't have a dilemma. I don't have to worry about it. And CNN spent very little time covering the most corrupt politician in the United States. How is Chris Cuomo so important that is not enough to kick his ass off the air?
No, that's more egregious than cooking a story, as far as I'm concerned, because that's ongoing coverage. That's a continuing narrative involving multiple deaths and or sexual harassment. And he's in there coaching a guy with some juice at CNN as well. So who knows what other influence he had in broadcast programming decisions there. That's the cardinal sin of reporting what he did there.
It's not debatable. I mean, it's not defensible. And you think about it, you could have the most liberal, professor, have some, journalism professor from, Wesleyan or Amherst, and they would say, no, that crosses the line. No, you can't do that. Even though they probably, love Cuomo and think he's wonderful because, he believes in abortion in the fourth trimester and every other crazy left wing. They know that the host of a show on CNN broke all the rules, crossed all, and yet he survives. We could play his explanation. I know you have it there, Dave. And,
isn't it worse than that? I think I read that they urged him not to resign from the position. It wasn't that we're talking about they should have fired him, obviously, but they're literally begging him to stay because he was considering resigning. I think I read that over the weekend.
I don't, you really think Chris Cuomo, this half-wit, was going to quit CNN, where he's probably making $2 million and do what?
But also, Jerry, I talked to, you've had VB on, Doug Gowdy on before, and he's over in Albany right now. And I just talked to him a couple of days ago, and apparently Andrew calls everybody and threatens them, including all the legislatures. We've heard some of that already. It threatens them to ruin them. If that guy calls you and you're a 25-year-old, Columbia grad at CNN, you answer the phone. If Andrew Cuomo calls you and tells you to lay off my effing brother, you punk, or I'll destroy you, those pussies can't handle that. There's no way. I mean, he's an old-fashioned bully.
Every time you hear more stories about Cuomo, you realize it goes so much deeper. He's been there for years now. Is he in his third term, or he's been there for like 12 years. He's just a vindictive, mean, bully who, bullies young women, 25 women, 40 years younger than he is. Anybody that, I mean, think of his book. He got somehow they laundered money and got him, whatever it is, $3 or $4, $5 million, and he ordered his staff to write it. I mean, that's not their job. I mean, and then did he give them money because he made a fortune? Probably not. I doubt it. Just ordered these people who are, trying to change the world. They're, probably ideologues, like you point out, came out of the Kennedy School of Government, and they want to change the world. And here, write a chapter about how great I was last May in all those wonderful press conferences I gave, those Emmy Award-winning press conferences. He's just the worst. And I know we've talked about it with Janice Dean and others about, just how corrupt he is. But he's still there. He survived. He refused
and he's polling well.
He's polling fine. He's thinking about running for re-election. Probably will. What else is he going to do? And he's not sure he could have done it without the expert advice of his brother, who never came clean, never told the world what he was up to, was sneaking around helping this corrupt governor survive.
It's like the Bulgers. It's like Billy helping out Whitey.
Yeah, and I don't think Andrew Cuomo's killed quite as many people as Whitey. Right. But would you be surprised if there were a body in his trunk? I mean, let's be honest. He's a scary guy. But let's hear from Chris on why he kept this from his viewers and why he is not resigning.
If you'll remember, I told you back in the beginning of March, I can't cover my brother's troubles. It wouldn't be fair. And you got it then, and I appreciate you understanding. Now, today, there are stories out there about me offering my brother advice. Of course I do. This is no revelation. I have said it publicly, and I certainly have never hidden it. I can be objective about just about any topic, but not about my family. Those of you who watch this show get it. Like you, I bet, my family means everything to me, and I am fiercely loyal to them. I'm family first, job second. But being a journalist and a brother to a politician is unique and a unique challenge, and I have a unique responsibility to balance those roles. It's not always easy, and people can say and write what they want, but I want you to know the truth. How I helped my brother also matters. When my brother's situation became turbulent, being looped into calls with other friends of his and advisors that did include some of his staff, I understand why that was a problem for CNN. It will not happen again. It was a mistake because I put my colleagues here, who I believe are the best in the business, in a bad spot. I never intended for that. I would never intend for that. And I am sorry for that. It's also important for you to understand, not only do I not cover this here, I've never tried to influence this network's coverage of my brother. In fact, I've been walled off from it. This is a unique and difficult situation, and that's okay. I know where the line is. I can respect it and still be there for my family, which I must. I have to do that.
Okay, he's almost as big a narcissist as his big brother. I mean, these are just two vile people, two people who've been advanced in life and ascended in life because of their name, their last name, because of their father. This guy is talking in hopes of gaining some sympathy about family first, family. Do you imagine being one of the tens of thousands of families whose loved one is dead because of that a-hole's big brother, and watching him talk about the importance of family?
Yeah.
When Andrew Cuomo put these coronavirus positive patients in nursing homes, killing thousands, even though the comfort ship was there, even though the Javits Center was there, empty, because he didn't want to give Donald Trump the W. That's why he did it. That was his motivation. He didn't want to give Trump the W. So tens of thousands of senior citizens are dead. And this little weasel is talking about, I know where the line is. I never crossed the line. He had meetings with the most corrupt politicians in America to help him save his job. I don't know. I don't give a damn if they're, best buddies. That is crossing any line, every line. That is incredible. That's the cardinal sin of journalism. I mean, he was lying by omission every night by not covering the story honestly. And worse than that, he was helping his brother find ways to keep that story out of the headlines. But anyway.
When the comfort chip stuff was happening, Gerry, Chris was doing PR for him on a daily basis. When suddenly there was bad news coming out of Albany, suddenly they wouldn't let Chris cover him. I can't do it. I can't. Bull. If you're a real news organization, you get him out there and make him eat shit. Make him cover his brother and with the negative stories. But obviously, it's not a real organization. These people are just corrupt and in bed.
And by the way, he wasn't just giving advice; he was getting special treatment. Remember, they were sending doctors out to the Hamptons to give Chris Cuomo special COVID tests when they weren't even available. People in nursing homes couldn't get them. People dying couldn't get tested. And yet this weasel was getting tested, and so were the rest of his family and friends. I mean, Cuomo is corrupt on so many levels. You reach the point where you say, if we can't get his ass out of office, get his ass in handcuffs, there's no hope.
Yeah, and remember, while Chris Cuomo was getting tested, he's also pulling a charade that he's isolated in his house, which was found to be untrue because he threatened a guy who rode a bike on his property. And CNN went along with it. It had him emerge from downstairs finally, showing what could happen if you buckled down and showed some resolve.
Don't forget, Chaddock. Oh, kind of sweaty. Just worked out. It happens. My favorite quote from Chris Cuomo. Oh, kind of sweaty. Just worked out. It happens. Oh, yeah, it happened. I mean, doesn't he just seem like just an awful person? Like if you hung out with him, it would always be about him. If you had a beer with him, it'd spend 2 hours talking about him and what he did that day for a workout and what he benched and what he did at work. And, everything would be about him and probably about his brother, and they're screwing him. And he wouldn't, he wouldn't even, you could have, your family member on death's doorstep, he wouldn't know, he wouldn't care. That's the kind of guy he is, doesn't he? He has friends, but he doesn't have friends. He has connections, and all that matters is him, his family, his job, his convertible, his cool Cutlass convertible where he's driving around wearing a mask outdoors by himself in a convertible. Nothing's on the level with the Cuomos. They're just so corrupt.
I told you about the inauguration when we were waiting to get in, and every single morning show, morning TV, morning radio, everybody, there's probably hundreds of people waiting to get in to the media center. He is the only one throwing a hissy fit. Every network is there, every production crew, everybody realizes that, whoever the security knows who's waiting to get in. And he's the only guy causing a problem. It was remarkable to watch.
Yeah, just no surprise. There's nothing that would surprise you. Nothing that these two weasels did, or nothing. No level of corruption is surprising anymore. They both got to go. Anyway, a couple more things I want to get to. Shannon, why I have you here? Did you? We talked about this yesterday. Did you follow the Eugene Chung story, where Eugene Chung, former Patriot first round draft pick, assistant coach, talked about interviewing, and he was told by a team in an interview that he's a minority, but not the right kind of minority, because he's Asian, he's Korean American, he's not black. And the NFL announced yesterday, after our show, announced that they're investigating. My question, and this is a serious one, Callahan and Chaddock, is what are they investigating? If there's only one question, and I'm not sure about this. I think there's some gray area, but the Rooney Rule talks about, and I'm looking at the Rooney Rule, talks about hiring African-American coaches, advancing African-American coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading right here from the description of the Rooney Rule. Its purpose was to ensure that minority coaches, especially African-Americans. So it's almost sounds like it's in the rule that it's designed to advance the careers of black coaches. And that's what we always assumed it was. If that's true, then the fault is with the NFL. Then the team is trying to satisfy the Rooney Rule by hiring or advancing black coaches, and Eugene Chung's not a black coach. What's wrong with what the coach said? If hiring him or promoting him doesn't satisfy the rule, then what was the coach supposed to do? I mean, if someone said,
well, I think but it says especially black coaches, right? It doesn't say.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at a description. I can go through the entire text of the rule.
I wouldn't think that they would cinch off that after black coaches, but I think that probably that's who was very predominantly in the pool were black prospects. So, I mean, that would be very discriminatory if it's only black people written in language. That would seems to me that considering that the lawyers are usually the commissioners, that would be a pretty tough thing to have. But
if he is, and there's a lot of different language here, looking at one paragraph, and it says, teams and league officers are required to interview, quote, minorities and or female applicants for positions such as team president, senior executives, football operations, coaching. And the next thing says each of the teams will establish a minority coaching fellowship program to provide NFL legends, minority and female participants, hands-on training in NFL coaching. So maybe you're right that he does qualify and satisfy the rule. Then the guy who said that is in trouble, which is easy to find. I mean, Eugene Chung knows who said it to him. So if the league calls him or calls him in, it says, Eugene, who said that? Then that guy's in trouble. If the rule says that Eugene Chung doesn't qualify, then how can you blame the coach or the executive, the general manager who asked the question? You know what I mean? If they're looking to advance hire, promote coaches to satisfy this rule, either Eugene Chung qualifies or he doesn't. That's all that matters. And if he does qualify, then that coach is in trouble and should be in trouble. Who said that? If he doesn't qualify,
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
but
the
the
other-
guy was just following orders, probably, because if it's about equitable outcomes, then you've got a huge number of black men involved in the NFL and a tiny number of black coaches. And if you have a tiny number of Asian men in the NFL and one of them becomes a coach, then percentage-wise, there can be way more Asian coaches just by percentage. And that's not equitable. And in the spirit of equity, if there's 4 Asians and one of them is a coach, then you've got 25% of Asians are coaches.
yeah, you don't have many, and which is why we have this situation, because I don't think the league, the team, the GM has dealt with other ethnic minorities. They do. The rule does specify ethnic minorities. It does say that. So maybe Eugene, but how could he's 51 years old? He's been around, forever. He's been, around as a player and coach for decades. So how come this hasn't come up before? How come? I mean, the Rooney Rule has been around for. I'm looking at. Been around since 2003. It's been around almost, it's been around 18 years.
Well, I mean, when you played or mentioned his quote yesterday, that kind of tells you the guy seems like he's a little oversensitive.
Yeah, well, I want to play that because you're right.
Well,
If
also,
I'm hiring a coach in the NFL, I have no problem that he's Korean American, of course. I do have a problem that he's what does he call himself? Emotionally paralyzed?
quickly too, before we play it, isn't it in a sense kind of a good thing for him, because he was being interviewed for a head coaching position based on merit? They weren't.
That's a good point. Yeah.
To satisfy the Rooney Rule, they were interviewing him because they felt he could be the best guy for the job. So
That's a good point. Like maybe he should be flattered that he wasn't just there because he's a minority. He was there.
Even though in this interview he did say like that was one of his selling points, was I satisfy the Rooney Rule for you. That was deliberate, but we'll play the audio.
Eugene, can you share a story with us about an interview that happened this year for a coaching job, and what happened during that interview?
Yeah, it was a pretty shocking shocking interview, the way it ended. So, I'm selling myself, being the salesman, and just going through my, accolades and my experience and what I can bring to this coaching staff. And at my last little comment, it was like, look, you check off all these boxes when you hire me. And one of them being, I'm a minority. So you're hiring a minority on top of that. And they're like, well, and yeah, it was said to me, he's like, well, you're really not a minority. And I froze in my tracks going, wait, did I hear that correctly? I was like, I'm not a minority. So, I kind of looked, I was like, wait a minute, last time I checked, when I looked in the mirror, when I brushed my teeth, I was a minority, so I was like, what do you mean I'm not a minority? And they're like, well, you're not the right minority we're looking for. And then that's when I just became emotionally paralyzed. Like, am I hearing what I'm hearing right now? And I was like, you want to elaborate on that? I mean, I was like, I thought diversity meant all minorities or everybody included. So, when that kind of narrative was put out there, I finally understood and grasped what the narrative was. It was very shocking to me and very heartbreaking at the same time, because it's a sport I hold near and dear to my heart, and to hear that narrative, that I don't fit into that narrative, really, it was emotionally paralyzing. I stopped in my tracks and was just going through my thoughts in my head, trying to say.
Emotionally paralyzing. To me, that'd be more concerning than his minority status. Be like, you're an offensive line coach. I mean,
I don't have any empathy for him.
We're looking for tough guys for any
Yeah.
job. I mean,
do you think Mike Ditka has ever said the words emotionally paralyzing?
No, I'm going to guess, Mike Tomlin hasn't either.
Right.
But you know what? He's right about one thing. He's, take the term literally, minority. I don't know how many Korean American coaches there are, period. Would he be the only one? I mean, one of maybe 2 or 3 total. So he's more of a minority, and maybe that's more of a reason for him to be satisfied to check that box, that Rooney Rule box. But again, the league has to clarify if he's if he satisfies that rule, then that guy, the coach was wrong. Then they need to talk to that coach or that GM who did the interview, and he's easy to find. If he doesn't qualify, then Eugene Chung should be saying to the league, "What about me, man? I'm looking to advance through the ranks, and I'm a minority, and how do I get left out of this?" But anyway,
I don't like it, Jerry. He went in there, used the Rooney Rule as a battering ram, and as his pitch, he said, I satisfy a lot of the boxes you need to check. I mean, so to me, is that an attempt to extort them, to shake them down, to intimidate them, to get them back on their heels? So he wants to play the race hustle game, and he lost at it this time. So I don't have any empathy for him.
Shouldn't that go without saying? When you sit there, you have to tell them you're a minority. I mean, seems a little strange. And you know what? Again, the league should investigate, and it'll take no time because he knows who said that to him, and they need to talk to that person, and they need to clarify: is he the right kind of minority? And again, if you're a team and you're looking for an offensive line coach, do you want a guy who was emotionally paralyzed?
Yeah, and emotionally paralyzed, him saying that to Shirley Lung is also a maneuver to say, I'm not too emotionally paralyzed to call a lawyer.
Yeah, good point. And if you want the guy to say, I'm not a minority, F you. You want a guy to fight back and be a football guy in that situation. But we'll see how that plays out. Another football story for you, Shit, before we go. I want your take on the ethical, the ethical line here. You know who Julio Jones is, Shattuck? I know you're a big football guy.
Of course, yes. He is the backup tight end for the Argonauts, I believe.
One of the best wide receivers in the NFL, one of the best wide receivers ever. And he's with the Atlanta Falcons. He's been with them his whole career. He was there when the Falcons blew the 28-3. He's a phenomenal receiver. I believe he's had 3 or 4 250-yard receiving games. No one else has had more than one, I don't think. He's just an incredibly productive receiver. He wants out, no longer wants to play with Matty Ryan. And we weren't quite sure because he's,
he's a lunatic, clearly. Didn't he say he wanted to play with Cam Newton? Wasn't there a quote out there?
Oh, Jesus. I don't know about that. But if he is, then you have to question his sanity. Forget, being emotionally paralyzed. That's being just completely out of your mind. If you want to play with, maybe he wants to play with Mac Jones, and it's, not the way, he can't admit it. He says, I want to play with Cam Newton until Mac Jones beats him out, like in the 3rd week of preseason. But he gets a phone call from Shannon Sharpe, and why anyone would take a phone call from Shannon Sharpe, beyond me, but beside the point. And Shannon Sharpe doesn't tell him he's on the air and talks to him about getting traded or wanting to get traded. And Julio Jones flat out admits, I'm out of there. He wants out of Atlanta and leaves no doubt. And he leaves no doubt because I don't think he thought this was actually on the record. Not only was it on the record, Shattuck, it was on the air. We can play it, but tell me if you think this is ethical.
We call? Okay, we are calling. We're calling.
You watching, Julio?
Really hope he answers here.
Julio, have the guts to pick up the phone.
What's happening?
Yeah.
All right.
Julio. Hold on. Let me put you on. Can you hear me?
I got you. This is your favorite uncle. What's going on, bro?
Man, nothing much. About to go meet up with my brother. What's happening with you?
Man, look. You want to go to the Cowboys, Julio? Or you want to stay in Atlanta?
Oh, man, nah, I'm out of there, man.
You out?
He's out of there.
Are you going to... Ideally, where would you like to go?
Right now, I want to win.
Okay. Well, don't go to Dallas. If you go to, you ain't winning in Dallas, Julio.
You already, man, listen, come on, man. You already know I know.
Okay.
Can you remind him we're on television
Ask
right
him
now?
why we wore the Dallas.
Listen. You know how people is, man, with all that going on with the picture.
Yeah.
And all that stuff like that.
Okay.
Man, I ain't never been on that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. That's good enough. Yeah. Julio, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for calling me back. We on air, but I appreciate you calling me, dog. You know I know my nephew was gonna pick up.
Oh yeah, nah. Yeah. I ain't going to Dallas, man. I never thought about going to Dallas.
Okay. I appreciate that.
I think there's no doubt he did not think he was live on the air, and you can't do that. I think that's like against the law. There'll be no charges or anything, but I wonder, how Julio Jones feels about, his uncle Shannon Sharpe now. Is he ever going to trust him again? Not that it matters if you're Fox Sports 1, you say, good job.
Yeah.
Good job, Shannon.
I mean, so the rule was when I was at the Herald that not only would you, first of all, you would never offer anybody to be off the record. But if they said this is off the record, then you still didn't have to be off the record.
Right.
You could still, if you were silent, you had to consent to it. But when that was also kind of dissuaded, don't just jump it. Don't throw that out there, as much as possible. So, reporters are taught to be cagey, but he just blew his friend up this time. This was just absolute friendly fire. This is terrible. What he did to him.
But the answer to the big question is, and if you're Atlanta, I don't think there's any going back now. As I always say, when a superstar wants out, he gets out, and that's the problem they have in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. He could be under contract. They could be desperately wanting to keep him. But superstars that don't want to be somewhere, they get their way. They don't ever say, suck it, you're playing with us. That's, might work in high school, it might work in college. It doesn't work in the NFL. If you're good enough and valuable, they kick and scream and they get their way. So Julio Jones will be traded probably for a first-round pick. He's 32, but I think he's got plenty left. And, again, he wants to win. I don't know why. They're going to win in New England. They're going to maybe not win the Super Bowl. And again, I think Mac Jones will be the quarterback, so maybe he would make sense in New England. But it's Julio Jones. There's going to be other bidders. There's going to be 4, 5, 6 teams bidding on him, so the price will be high. Last season he was hurt, but still managed 51 catches in 9 games. His numbers are just off the charts. He's like the all-time. He averages 95 yards receiving per game in his career. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times he's averaged over 100 yards per game in his career. He's a phenomenal player.
His yaks are through the roof too, Jerry.
Sure. I mean, he's fat. He's a stud. He's just a real.
There were reports yesterday. I know you just said they're looking for a first rounder. There were reports that they were trying to get a first rounder in advance of the in advance of the draft. So he was already out of there, whether this happened or not. But it is funny to see because I feel like Shannon Sharpe goes viral more than ESPN goes viral, yet nobody on planet Earth knows that he has a television show, which is wild to me. So nobody watches that show.
And, nobody watches the show. And Skip Bayless gets paid $6.5 million per year. I'm going to guess Shannon Sharpe's got to be making what, 3?
Probably, yeah.
Because a fortune. And you're right. He makes more viral moments than anyone, maybe than Stephen A. Stephen A. He competes. Stephen A. was blasting LeBron James again yesterday, which is always amazing on ESPN because that station exists to promote LeBron, but questioning LeBron why he won't promote the vaccine. I'm so tired of this. You want to promote the vaccine? Go ahead. You don't. I mean, you're not obligated as a celebrity. It's like when Brian Stelter was ripping Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham because they didn't post selfies with their bare arms getting jabbed. I mean, if they want to do it, they do it. That's not your freaking business, Brian Stelter, you potato. It's not Stephen A.'s business, and God knows I can't stand LeBron. Plenty to rip on LeBron for, but you want him out there promoting the vaccine? Well, what if he doesn't want to? What if he feels uncomfortable doing that because he hasn't done the research? By the way, did you see that thing? And I tweeted about it. The first baby, an 8-month-old baby, got vaccinated yesterday. The baby's, both his parents are allegedly doctors, but I don't care. An 8-month-old baby was vaccinated, and I was mocking it obviously on Twitter, as I should, as anybody should, and immediately people were like, babies get all kinds of vaccines. They get smallpox and rubella and polio, and I'm like, yeah, those affect them.
Right.
if they're not vaccinated, babies get affected by smallpox or polio. Babies aren't affected by COVID. There's
Right.
no
Well,
reason for a baby.
his
8 months
parents
old.
must be patriotic, Jerry.
He's an 8-month-old in Baldwinsville, New York, named Enzo. There's your first clue. His name is Enzo. Youngest person in the world to receive 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. His parents say he's had no reaction to either shot. So they're experimenting.
Jerry, I say if Enzo can do it, so can you. All of us can learn something from little Enzo.
This is an experimental drug used on an 8-month-old baby, and his parents are both doctors, and they support this, approve this. They're experimenting on this child.
Is he wearing a mask, little Enzo?
He's not. In the picture I have, he's not. He's playing with his toys. Looks perfectly normal. He's got no shot. I don't care that his parents are doctors. They're weirdos who allowed their child to be experimented on. It's crazy. But, I'll guess, Steve, any criticism of LeBron's good by me. And Stephen A. was blasting him for not talking about the vaccine when he made a public appearance at his little tequila event, and we don't know whether he's vaccinated or not. So he was threatening everybody's life. So that's fine. Go ahead. Go for it. Criticize that dink LeBron James. But
he has to. He can't. Well, unless they're just obviously doing him a favor, but he can't go to events like that without being vaccinated. That's the rule. So the question is, so I assume he is vaccinated, or else they would have suspended him.
They would never ever suspend him. But maybe you're right. Maybe his agent or whoever manager, the people at the tequila thing said only vaccinated people can come.
Oh, that was it. That's what the NBA put a statement out yesterday. You can only do off-court activities if it is if the player is vaccinated. Yeah.
I have a dilemma, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but are golf courses going to require you to be vaccinated? That's what I'm struggling with.
That's the one for you. That's the one to watch.
I mean, I don't even want to go on an airplane, at least not for a while. So I don't care about that. But are we going to get
Jerry, why aren't you vaccinated? Just get vaccinated.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? There's a coronavirus going around.
I don't see any people, so I don't have any. I live, kind of in my own little world. I don't go out in public much, at least not. I go outside. I walk all over the place. I run all over the place. But you tell me, talk me into it right now. Why should I be vaccinated?
Because it's very unpleasant to get the pandemic disease, and you could die, among other things.
I know,
nobody
but it's
raves
going
about
away.
it.
It's going away.
I don't know if it's going away.
What a wild trio, right? I have asthma, so I'm the most at risk of 3 of us. Then you got Shattuck, who's jumping the line to get it. He's so paranoid about it. And then Jerry, all he cares about is whether or not he needs it to play golf. So it's a wild little crew we got going here.
It's a free shot from the government. Just take something from them for free.
I'm going to do it, but I want to know if there's any free French fries in it for me first. I need something. I want to get in a lottery, or maybe get a free beer somewhere, something like that. When
a free round of golf would apply in this situation.
Yes.
Maybe the governor can come up with.
Will you have to show your vaccination card to play golf this summer? I want to know.
I think on some courses, probably.
Okay, then I'm doing it. I mean,
please.
What about bars and restaurants? Are they going to say, "Let's see your papers. We need to see your papers"?
I mean, in Maine, wouldn't some in Maine do it? There's a lot of boutique little liberal towns up there.
I don't know. I'm right in the heart of the city of Boston. Can I go out places in my neighborhood without showing a vaccination card? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if they're allowed to do that in Boston as yet. I don't know. Nobody has asked me for it yet. So I'm happy. But I have it. I've got a little sticker
card.
too.
You have it laminated?
Yes, and I got a little sticker.
Do I get a V? Do I get like a gold V that I put on my chest or maybe on my forehead? I mean, I didn't want to cut the line. Okay, I didn't want to get in front of any real obese people or really old folks. I don't want to be. I'll wait my turn. Okay, I'll wait my turn.
There's a glut of vaccines
and I'll be sure to
there.
Post a selfie where I'm showing my pipes.
I want to see with Fauci ouchie, Jerry. I still have to wear a mask, by the way. Today I'll be crushing glutes at the gym. You still have to wear a mask in there, which sucks.
While you work out, you got to wear a mask.
How did you do last week, by the way? I think that was last Thursday? We didn't get an update on that. How'd you do with the softball team?
I got updates from a very distressed Tom Shattuck at the field. He was texting me about this insanity. You're right. We didn't really get into it, but yes, I had a heated discussion with the coaches, and
my daughter, they dictated again that the mask go on. As a matter of fact, we're playing the same team tonight. And once again, I've already said my piece that we have no authority. We can't make them do this. There's already now friction between me and coaches. So I didn't ask for any of this. And I forbade my daughter to put her mask on, which puts her in the awkward position of being told by a coach to put it on. And I say, you're not putting anything on. So in the end of the game last week, last week we played an even more liberal town, progressive town. So at the end of the game, they line up on their baseline. We line up on ours. You're going to do the good game thing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they touch elbows now because of COVID. Well, our coach says, okay, everybody put your masks on so we can say good game. As the girls are putting them on, I tell my daughter, you're not putting it on. Fine. Just go back in line there and get prepared. The other team is so afraid that they opted to not do any exchange of good games. So they just all left. Yes.
So you just created a whole little stir. Is tonight the first time you're going back to that environment, or have you seen some of these people? This is the same team that you're playing. Is that what you said?
Same team we're playing, but no, I see that we had a practice Sunday. We have to pretend that these arguments aren't happening during our practice. There's no other team, so nobody had masks and everybody was fine. But tonight, out of respect for the other team, I'm sure that the coaches will tell the girls to put masks on. Oh
God, I don't envy a Shattuck. That would drive me nuts. There's no reason for a child to be wearing a mask. In fact, there's no reason anybody to be wearing a mask outside. We've gone over this already. Yep. Christ, how hard is this to understand? I will say it slowly for your fellow coaches to understand. There have been 0 recorded transmissions of the virus outdoors in the world. The world of 7 point whatever billion people. Nobody has been infected from outdoor, casual outdoor contact. Nobody, zero,
right.
And no children get. It's just maddening to deal with such idiots. These people you're coaching with are absolute fools. Tell them to read up, for Christ's sake. Tell them to listen, pay attention. But good luck with that, Shattuck. I'm looking forward to reading in the paper how a softball coach was arrested, taken away because he shook some kid's hand without a mask on. Christ, we've lost our minds. But anyway, all right, Shattuck, that is Tom Shattuck, the host of the Burn Battle podcast and Substack, prolific Substacker. You could read him at substack.com/Tom Shattuck. Correct?
That's good enough.
Close enough. You can find him on there. That's what I do now. I got you and 3 or 4 others, and they come in my email, and it's kind of like reading a newspaper was, but if it included the writers you liked. You know what I mean? You get on Substack, you get 3, 4, 5 people you like, comes in the mail, boom, there you go. You get to read Tom Shattuck's latest, which I read last night. Which was it?
On the Iran deal, as we are begging Iran to let us play again so that they can create centrifuges so they can blow Israel off the map.
That's true. It was a good snarky column about Tony Blinken and Joe Biden and their friends and the mullahs in Iran. But check it out on Substack. All right, Shattuck, thanks. And thanks to Shea Concrete and Allied Paving at DCU and everybody for watching and listening. A lot of YouTube comments. Any good ones there, Callahan?
Nothing too crazy. Everyone giving Shattuck shit, which is nice.
Incorrect. I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that to be the case.
I am bummed, by the way, because I did want to show how good of a guy I am. I'm bummed we didn't go into the Matt Siegel after story, because I would just like to say that Gerry Callahan would never have a microphone without knowing all the information of possible censorship in his life, because that's the type of guy I am. I'm a team guy. I would always put the talent first ahead of whatever else. So I'm Team Maddie in this situation.
Team Maddie apologized to his producer after he, essentially fired her. She was back the next day, correct?
Yes.
Everyone knows, and everyone at that station knows that gravy train ain't going to run forever, but they are not going to leap off yet. They're all making good money. They got a good thing going.
And by the way, she's not a board op. She's a producer. I heard Kirk in their show. I heard them talk about it. She's not a board op. She is a valued team member. Maddie holds her in high regard. He expected more from her. He was not a bad guy in this situation.
Maddie needs her. He admits he needs her because he knows nothing about the music or the news or pop culture or the things that he has to talk about. So he desperately needs her, and he I think he understood that and he apologized and kept her around. But
Look at Callahan patting himself in the back for being a great team player
know.
while he's
I gotta
about to
point
put
that
on
out.
a different
People
uniform.
like to say all the time that I'm a bad guy. I don't know why. I'm a nice guy. I'm a great guy. Even you shit talk me from time to time, Shaq. You of all people. I'm a great guy to you.
My
you got
goodness.
lots of people that don't think that, though, Callahan.
No,
It's
it's
'cause you're a bad guy. It's 'cause you're a weirdo. That's why. They just think they're they don't get you, man. They don't get you. I can't
plus
tell you the number of
he's
people.
been doing shuttle diplomacy with Minahan now for a year, trying to knock off Robinson. Finally, he's
He did. He pulled it off.
Moves right in.
Right. He gets his stream job, and he'll.
It was weird. It was weird when Dan Bongino went straight to his producer Steve Robinson yesterday during his debut.
I give. What do you give Shattuck? Shattuck. What do you give Callahan? 6 months at Barstool, or 4 or 5 months? What do you think?
So it's interesting. I've been thinking about this because Kirk is obviously he'll go to any extent. Obviously, everybody knows to have a fantastic spectacle-filled show. He leaves nothing on the table. He will go to any distance. He's not harnessed, which is why he was so good on the radio. But with Dave has no soul. So there's nothing holding Kirk back from any direction or any possible endeavor. When Kirk was going after Blind Mike, at one point Robinson said, "Oh my God, Kirk, you're a monster," because Robinson has a bit of a soul and a moral grounding, but Dave is a nihilist.
Correct.
So I think
that is a very solid analysis from Shattuck. Yes, and he'll survive, and they'll work well together because Callahan understands that he's going to get chewed up and spit out on a regular basis, and I think he'll show up the next day and he won't pout and whine like some producers will. And you're absolutely right. He has no soul. He'll lie, as Dershowitz can attest, if it helps him get through the day.
I would like a redemption story. I would like an apology out of Alan Dershowitz. That's my first mission. I'd like an apology from him.
Although that speaks to Dave being a good producer. He was willing to throw it all away for some content.
I always defended him on that. I said, producers lie, whatever it takes to get the job done. And he lied to Dershowitz, got him on, got an interview, and whatever, and you got it done, right? You got the job done.
Yeah, story's a little convoluted, but yeah, I guess at the end of the day,
Sure. Yeah, you're innocent, right?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, we'll see how that goes. He's got a few more weeks here with us. Thank God. We're gonna have it's gonna be one of those going away deals for like 2 weeks of people saying goodbye to Callahan and wishing them luck and all that. It's gonna be disgusting.
It's gonna be beautiful.
All right, we got to go. We got to roll here. All right, good luck tonight in softball game. Stick to your guns, Shattuck. I want to read about you in the police log. So, I want you dragged away, maskless, if that's what it takes. All right?
Will do.
Fight the good fight. Stand on principle. Today, that's what we're all doing, raising that BLM flag, and we're all uniting around that BLM flag around the world. All right, that will do it for us. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we'll do it again tomorrow.